Hope you know the magic word is.
Hope you know the magic word is. Hope you know the magic word is.
Smash! Smash! Smash!
Save the city, help us win.
I could do this all.
Save the city, help us win. Save us all from the state we live.
Greetings, Broadway babies, or should I say Disneyland musical theater babies? Welcome to Stealing Focus.
Hey everybody, I'm Jeff.
And I'm Emily.
And I'm everybody's favorite green furry monster, Gerald.
Yeah, it's not the Hulk. It's this guy.
He's not furry
This
enough.
guy right here. He's not furry enough. No.
Yeah.
No. And we are here to talk about Rogers the Musical, which is playing at Disney's California Adventure in the Hyperion Theater until the end of August, so they say. We'll see if...
Might get an extension.
You know,
Who
if
knows?
demand
Definitely.
stays high,
Yeah.
who knows? Maybe they'll have it grow.
So this show is based on a single scene from Hawkeye, basically, in the very first episode, which establishes that there is an in-universe musical called Rogers the Musical, with its iconography and stuff very, very highly mimicking the look of Hamilton, as a matter of fact.
Yeah, the poster of Rogers is very, very evocative of Hamilton's iconic poster. Let's see, Hawkeye came out as a Marvel TV show that came out, I think, in 2021.
I think that's
It was
right.
during the pandemic,
It
and
was
they
like
filmed
October
this during
or
the
November
pandemic.
of 2020.
Yeah, it was like Christmas time.
Yeah.
One of the cool things that Disney did at the end of the series is they put in the final credits of the series the whole extended sequence, which was a 4-minute musical number called Save the City, and it was written by iconic songwriting team Mark Shaman and Scott Whitman. They've written so many musicals. Probably the one that most people think of first is Hairspray. It was a banger of a number.
Well, it was also really funny in the context of that show because Hawkeye was so drab and so dreary, and it's
Well, also,
Well,
this
he was
scene-
going through PTSD.
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he's going through
and
a lot,
seeing
and then
himself
here they are.
presented in such a way, like
yeah.
he's,
Yeah, and
like he's
seeing-
inconsequential to the events of what happened. Like that must
Exactly.
have sucked.
While Hawkeye seems cool, like a really nice guy.
Yeah, and I remember he like disassociates when he sees the girl playing Natasha
Oh,
and doing
yeah.
flips
Oh,
because,
God.
Natasha died. By the way, this video is going to be one big spoiler for like every Marvel movie because
If you haven't seen at least two like Endgame, then
Yeah.
you might have
And-
some spoilers.
yeah, and this musical works under that logic as well. So
Exactly.
be warned, you have to have a lot of Captain America, basically all of the Captain America lore in your head when you go see Rogers the Musical.
Yeah.
But I digress. So a lot of people online got really excited about that. There were a lot of musical theater stars in it. One of my first big crushes in life, Adam Pascal, was in it. And also Ty Taylor, who I looked up his credits. I didn't realize he was in the original cast of Songs for a New World. Who knew? So it's the two of them kind of playing New Yorkers, saying like, help us Avengers, save the city,
Yeah.
and help us
Save
win.
us win.
And then they come in and it's a whole musical number basically acting out what happened at the end of...
In the Battle of New York,
The-
at the end
yeah.
of the first Avengers movie.
I remember when that came out, a lot of people really liked it. But I do remember a lot of people saying, okay, like theater Twitter, I'm not calling it X. So on theater Twitter, there were a lot of people who were like, this musical number is amazing, but why does it look so cheap? Like, why is Hulk in a hoodie and everything? And my response was, this is theme park costuming and sets. Mark my words, they are laying some groundwork here.
You called it.
And I was right. I feel like if there hadn't been a response, they wouldn't have done anything. But because the response was so big and a spot opening up at the Hyperion, they were like, why not?
Yeah, it's kind of the perfect limited run theme park show you can do.
So Hunter Bell was roped in to write the book. Hunter Bell is Tony nominated musical theater writer. He wrote the book for Title of Show.
He also wrote Villains Tonight.
He also wrote Villains Tonight. This is a great time to segue to this guy because Jeff over here has a long, extensive career doing not Disney musicals, but like Disney theme park and cruise ship musicals.
Yeah. Well, on cruise ship, they're similar to how Aladdin show and the Frozen show was here in California. adventure.
Yeah.
They're like 50 minutes, 55 maybe. No intermission ever, because that would be death.
When you were on the cruise ships, what shows did you do?
Villains Tonight was the big one, or I was the lead in that one. That's
Who's the lead?
Hades. And it's obviously
Way better than James
He's
Woods.
from Hercules. Twice Charmed, which is the sequel to Cinderella. Disney Dreams and Toy Story. I was in the closing cast of Toy Story.
You were Buzz.
He was Buzz Lightyear.
Which was a
Buzz Lightyear.
So-
pretty cool show. Actually.
Yeah, so he's done some Disney adapted specifically for the stage musicals. Twice
Yeah,
Charmed and Toy Story had new songs written specifically for a cruise ship show, whereas Villains Tonight and Disney Dreams are more reviews with like a loose structure around them. But they all work under the assumption that everyone in the audience is very, very familiar with this, and we have to keep it quick and tight and just kind of reference the big stuff and then play the hits, because it's theme park and cruise ship crowds, which are not always the best audience to have.
Yeah,
In my
full of
opinion.
very young children, infants sometimes, or it's like
know?
they're watching on a screen.
Yeah.
they don't understand like live performers need feedback.
Exactly.
Well, I also did Turtle Talk with Crush at DCA, and we had a similar problem that they have at the Hyperion, which is not only do you have a bunch of kids and all that, but these are tired people who have been in the sun all day. So sometimes it's just like they're just trying to get out of the sun. They're trying to get out of the heat, so they're not going to be the best crowd.
So Rogers opened at the Hyperion about a month ago, and it's just playing this summer. So you have to go to Disney's California Adventure to see it.
Yeah, sorry.
But it's kind of cool. In Hollywoodland, they have kind of the banners all along the lampposts.
Yeah.
Kind of like how you would see in Hollywood and LA when a musical, usually when like a national tour is in town.
Something at
you
the Pantages or the
Yeah.
Amundsen or something.
Yeah, you usually see those banners all around. So I thought that was a nice touch.
Me too.
So it features two songs that have previously existed. One of them is Save the City by Shaman and Whitman. The other was Star Spangled Man, which is from Captain America, the First Avenger.
Yeah.
And it was written by Alan Menken and
Oh
David
my
Zippel,
God.
Alan Menken's written everything, but I believe
Yeah.
David Zippel wrote a few Disney movies with him. I think maybe Hercules. The other 5 new songs are kind of a mixture, a team of people. The music was written by Christopher Lennertz. The show was conceived and directed by Jordan Peterson.
Wait, hold on. Excuse me? The Lobster Man?
Not that Jordan Peterson.
Different
Oh,
guy.
God,
No.
thank
Different guy.
goodness.
No, definitely a
Oh,
different guy.
my gosh, thank goodness.
Jordan Peterson did direct me when I did Turtle Talk, and he's a dear friend, and he also was responsible for a couple of the latest parades.
So Christopher Lennertz did the music, and then Lennertz, Peterson, and then another person named Alex Caracas did the lyrics. It's 35 minutes. It is
Nice tight show.
a nice tight show. It covers basically at least a moment from each of Captain America's films, except for Civil War, because that one is pretty bleak. But the arc of the story is really kind of about Steve and Peggy.
Yeah.
It's a love story.
So there are about 8 actors, 4 guys, 4 girls, that do all the singing and play either one role or like double on a couple tracks. And then there are 7 people in the ensemble. And I think only a couple of them actually maybe might do some singing to round out the ensemble. The rest, who are all playing like the Avengers, none of them are mic'd. They're all, whenever they sing or talk, they're all dubbed by some voice on high.
They're just lip sync.
Again, theme park show.
Except for the first Avenger, Captain America, of course.
Yeah, anybody that had a mic on.
And I wouldn't be surprised if the ensemble numbers didn't have some like kind of beefing up in the voices on the
Help
ensemble
with
tracks as
tracks.
well.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, because they got to be ready for anything. So before we get into it, what are our thoughts? How did we feel? Where did we come down on Rogers the Musical, Gerald?
Oh, I really liked it. I thought it was fun, and yeah.
Okay, so Jeff, what did you think?
Going into it, I was really dubious. I thought it was a really difficult choice that they made. But as far as telling a musical story about this guy's life, this character's life, in 35 minutes or less, don't think you could have done better. It's a thumb sideways.
Oh, pointing to me. I liked it. I thought there were moments when it approached what it was going for. The thing is, this show exists because Disney thought they could get some camp value out of it. But then the problem is it's a Disney show. So there's a lot of moments where I feel like they could go farther with the joke, but they're limited by the corporation of it all, the mouse of it all. You know, the performers were all amazing, and there are moments where you could tell, especially with some of the ensemble members who we'll get into. There are these moments where you could tell they wanted to do something a little bit bigger or make fun individualistic choices that they could mix up every performance, but then you get to the Disney of it all, the Disney theme park of it all, where everything is going to have to be kind of the same thing every single time.
You make a great point. I mean, because they do there is kind of this delicious satire going on that's really funny. Like we talked about, Gerald, the other day. It's basically based on what is supposed to be a bad musical.
Well, in Hawkeye, it's not supposed to be a bad musical. It's supposed to be a great big hit, like Hamilton. It's more the idea that it's a little bit absurd that there's a musical featuring the Avengers. Although we live in a world where Back to the Future just opened on Broadway, so.
Oh my gosh.
I was gonna say I was hoping it was gonna lean more into the absurd, but I realized the reasons why maybe they couldn't do that.
Yeah. All right, so do you guys want to know what happens in this little? It's not even a one act. It's like a half an act. It's this
so short.
35-minute musical.
It's a miracle they got the story
rush over
told.
so much, but if you've seen Captain America's story from the movies, then you have the context for everything that's happening anyway.
Yeah.
It's just there's like a little sprinkling, little added sprinkling of musical theater flavoring on top.
Okay, so before the show, the curtains are closed and the audience is milling in and everyone's sitting down because it's the middle of August and they're so tired.
It's hot.
But
outside.
there is a big projection of a shield on the curtains, and there's an old-timey radio, and it's playing a lot of fun little, like it's playing a lot of old songs you would hear in the 1940s, but then they have like fake commercials. So they have like Elias and Co, which is the little shop just down the street from the Hyperion in California Adventure. And then the commercials would come in and also be kind of the pre-show announcements.
And they've gathered right here at the Hyperion Theater, a beacon for the show business elite. In just 10 minutes, the star kids will take the stage for a performance that's sure to knock your socks off. Unless you're wearing sandals. But before we get started...
You can watch the whole opening night performance of Rogers online on YouTube. And the audience for that is great because they're all hyped up and they're probably all friends and invited guests, journalists who are going to write about the show. We saw a 1:45 middle of August matinee.
And almost 90-degree weather.
And it was a packed house, but our audience, they were the typical theme park audience. They didn't clap at the end of songs.
Ridiculous.
Hardly at all.
I would be going, woo, and really trying to get into it, and it just no one around me was doing it. So that could have affected maybe how we viewed it. We couldn't get as like goofy and fun as we maybe would have liked to if the crowd was a little more sympathetic.
I think that's a great point.
So let's get into the plot of the show. Let's talk about what happens. So the first thing that happens is we get a little trio of girls who come out called the Starkettes, and they are our Greek chorus for the musical. They are very much Andrew's sisters, the urchins from Little Shop, and
Hercules.
Yes, and they come in and they introduce the show and they say that Nick Fury sings.
Nick Fury sings.
And then they kick it off with the opening number.
It's called U.S. Opening Night, which is a really great name, actually. I really like that. And it's kind of a cross between Boogie Woogie Bugle Boy and Candyman.
It's a lot of Candyman by Christina Aguilera, I think.
Candyman.
It's very much like you met him on the moon and on Chicago way. That's
Based
kind
on
of
like the time period, you had to start it that way. You just had to start it like that. It was great.
It's the
It-
40s,
makes
so
a lot of
that's
sense.
what they're going for.
and it worked really well, and then it brought us into the world.
He tells a story about a kid named Steve. He's going to the army, but he's got to leave. Little when he sees love, he must confess. We gotta tell this tale in 30 minutes or less.
We have an extra moment because there are newsies in the mix. And we also get our cast on the turntable and they're rotating. They use that turntable for all of
I
like
was gonna
2
say.
songs, you guys. They barely use
They
it.
always got to find a use for it, though.
If you've ever been to California Adventure, you know the Hyperion is a very, very big theater. And it was built specifically there to do kind of Broadway-style musical shows.
It's actually a pretty good theater.
Yeah, and so I think the turntable was already there.
Oh, yeah.
They must have used it. Frozen was the last thing, and then Aladdin before that.
I definitely remember that turntable being in there for other shows.
Yeah, but they use it like twice.
Yeah,
so
it's
in
like
the
that.
opening, they're kind of around it and spinning, and then they kind of stop using it.
So basically, it's the story of Steve Rogers.
Yeah, so he comes out in the number while everyone's singing, and they're like, "Here's Steve Rogers," and we get the layering of lines and moments and dialogue from the movie, but they kind of make a musical theater style. So he comes in, and then an actor who's definitely got his voice dubbed ahead comes up to Peggy Carter, and he's like, "Oh, I want to dance," and little Steve tries to help her, and then she punches him. So again, we get our little dynamic for what they're supposed to be
And
within.
Bucky gets introduced.
Yes,
and how
we get
he's going into
Bucky.
the army.
Yes.
And all the major beats are hit from the beginning of the first Avenger movie.
And then everyone leaves, and little Steve Rogers is left alone on stage, and he's alone, and right behind him is this ridiculously huge
Uncle Sam.
picture of Uncle Sam, and the famous image from World War II, and underneath it says, "I want you."
And Steve's like, yeah, but they're not talking about me. So his I Want song, ironically, is a song about how he isn't wanted.
So this song is called "I Want You,"
Yeah.
and it's
This was a great song. I really
Yeah.
like this
Pretty.
song, actually.
It's in the spot where the I Want song is supposed to be. It's like song number 2, and he's singing about how he wants to be in the army, but Uncle Sam doesn't want him because he's a scrawny little runt and he's a buck 11.
Like, I can't believe there's never been a song that utilizes that language of like, Uncle Sam says he wants you, but not me, or something like that.
Yeah.
I want you. Yeah, but not. Give me a chance, Doc.
It's very much like any boy ingenue Disney song.
Yeah.
It's like Proud of Your Boy or Santa Fe, any of those like kind of Alan Menken style.
Distance songs.
Yeah, Go the
Go the
Distance.
Although
Distance.
that's a little more bombastic than what we're talking
No,
about.
yeah. But it has that like, I'm just a guy and I've got this tenor style of singing because I'm scrawny and I'm nobody. Mwah. But the guy who played him was really good. He reminded me of very much of like Dan Radcliffe when he does musicals.
Totally.
Yeah. But he's
Like How to Succeed in Business.
yeah. He had a kind of a way of phrasing his vowels
Yeah,
that kind of reminded me of Dan Radcliffe.
It's like a classic. It felt like a throwback. He really held his own. That guy. That guy was really good.
Yeah, but I will say that I feel like the lyrics in this show, they're not like Diana the Musical bad, but they are very, very. They ain't Sondheim, let's just say. Like this ain't Hammerstein. Like
There were
this.
some good lines here and there, but yeah, overall.
The rhymes are pretty basic. He's like made of, afraid of, like.
And then I'll show you everything I'm made of. And then you'll know there's nothing I'm afraid of.
You're gonna see that a lot in Rogers the Musical, and
You can
that's
see
okay.
a lot of lines coming, basically. You're not surprised by any of the lyricism exactly.
That's exactly
No,
right.
no. And they do, like we said, musicalize a lot of his famous lines. In this song, there's there's a part where he turns up to Uncle Sam and he says for the first time, "I could do this all day."
You know, I can do this all day. Cause somehow, someday, somewhere, some way.
And it is a clever lyric too to say, it's not so great when I want you doesn't mean you.
Yeah, that was the line.
Yeah.
doesn't
And then
mean
there's a
me.
moment where he says he imagines the crowd playing taps and something with scraps, and then he says, "These doctors are full of terrible advice." And then the adults in the audience wake up for a second and go, "Huh."
Because the kid fell off the chair.
Yeah. So yeah, it was cute. I'm sure it's gonna become a part of some little Tenor Boys book. Yeah.
After that, They do a little bit more dialogue from the first Cat movie.
Yeah, because Dr. Erskine and Peggy Carter show up for the first time.
Yeah,
and they're
yeah.
like, hello there, young man. You look like you want to do some good. And he's like, well, I guess.
I want to, but I can't because I'm too scrawny.
Yeah, I'm too scrawny. And then we get a moment where he meets Peggy Carter. She's like, Peggy Carter. And then the Starkettes pop up and they're like, oh. It's a cheap joke. Sorry, it's a cheap joke. It's a cheap joke. I've heard it before.
I still chuckled. I was like,
yeah. So they get into the whole super serum bit.
Yep. They bring out a big old test chamber thingy.
Yeah.
And they have him get in it. And is it as the song starts they change him, or is it?
Yeah. So in Captain America, Star Spangled Man is what he's doing when he's like being the mascot on the USO tour. But they start it here. So once they take him to the lab, it kind of starts and the girls are singing.
Who's here to prove that we can? The Star Spangled Man with a plan.
I always want to sing "We're clearly soldiers in petticoats," but that's not what it is. It
It's
sounds
really-
a lot like
it
it.
does.
I'm telling you. And so he gets into the big machine, the doobly doo.
And a bunch of smoke comes out of it. Some dry ice machine thing.
Yeah,
And then they switch the actor.
It's the old
then they switch the actors.
Cinderella
That's when they do
switcheroo.
Yes.
It's just like in Damn Yankees.
It's just like in Damn
That's
Yankees.
true.
We have an old Joe and a young Joe, and in this show it's old Steve, or actually it's like
Skinny
Skinny
Steve
Steve,
and
and then
Buff Steve.
yeah, Captain America
Chad
Steve.
Steve.
Oh no. So Chad Steve comes out, and he's much taller. He's buff. He's got a much stronger tenor range, and he's ready to fight for his country.
Against them Nazis.
They even have the moment where Peggy does that awkward like chest thing. Luckily, he's not shirtless, so
Yeah,
it's
of
fine. But then he's like, "I'm ready to go," and they're like, "Yeah, man, go be in the USO." There's a moment where Steve's like, "Thank you, spangly dancers."
Yeah.
Thank you, Spangly Dancers.
Chuckled at that too.
Yeah, and then we get the famous sequence from the movie, which is him going on tour USO. The song is very much patriotic pastiche, kind of a mix between like a Sousa march and like an Irving Berlin patriotic song. Yeah. Just the kind of song you would have heard in the 1940s, like, kind of drumming up American patriotism. So, and that's intentional, of course. Yeah. And it's great. It's kind of exactly what you'd expect. There's dancers and they're all doing their thing.
They're doing the big USO stuff.
Yeah.
They're basically doing a lot of the things that they kind of did in the movie.
I can't remember if he does this in the
moves here and
movie,
there.
but he has this thing where he's like, he can't read the card and he's like messing up the card.
Yep, I'm pretty sure he does that at one point.
Okay, good. Yeah. There was one joke that was like dumb, where I was like, "This is dumb."
It wasn't the cute.
Oh, he
one,
says like, he's like, "They won't get the mop on us. Sorry, the drop on us."
yeah, that was dumb. That was
There's
very dumb.
there's a few.
no way
again,
you're gonna say mop.
this is where like the Disney theme park musical like creeps in. There's stuff like that, and then there's stuff like, Nick Fury with a sparkly eye patch. So like, it wants to be camp sometimes, but then it's like, they won't get the mop on us.
Who's fighting Hydra and cleaning their clothes?
Every bond you buy keeps our enemies from getting the mop on us. Or drop on us. Sorry.
There's an ironic line after that number where Steve comes up to Peggy and he's like, "Did you catch the energy at the matinee? It was amazing." And I remember laughing in that moment because I was like, "What matinee were you watching? The energy here sucks right now."
What the heck is this?
Oh, he's like, yeah, you should have been at the matinee. The audience was awful. It was like we were at a theme park.
So Peggy finds Steve and she's like, "Bucky is captured." And Steve's like, "Well, I'm gonna go behind enemy lines." And then they start singing this little theme that they sing again later on in the show. And it's like him asking her on a date. It's a song called Just One Dance. And I feel like it must have been a longer duet or something a few drafts ago.
Yeah.
And then they had to cut it down to get to 35. Because it feels like pieces, like reprises of a song that we should have already heard.
Agent Carter, when I return, do you want to go on a date with me?
Be careful, Captain.
I think that means you do.
Until that chance in my first dance ring.
They do this montage of the entire events of the rest of Captain America.
Of like
So
saving the Howling Commandos from the Red Skull base or whatever it was.
yeah, and saving Bucky. And this
Howling
is expressed in comic book covers. These 3
Yeah.
comic book cover set pieces.
I love that because that's like another little layer for the comic book fans in the audience who get to see that and be like, oh man, they're doing the cover where like he punches Hitler.
And that was a really effective way to kind of shorthand it, just give us the bullet points of
Yeah.
the story and get us back to where we need to be.
So now we're at the end of the movie, not the end of the show, we're at the end of Captain America,
Yeah.
where he's got to fly the airplane into the ice to save everybody.
Which was probably given the least amount of context.
Oh, I do want to say at the end of that montage, though, the narrator says, Captain America saved his childhood friend, Bucky Barnes. But they kind of gloss over the fact that he, like, dies again not long after that. I mean, dies. As far as we know, as far as we, the audience, know. But 35-minute show, they can't get into
This
that.
is a very Cliff Notes version.
Also, it's important to remember that in the universe of the MCU, this show was written by people who don't know the actual events of a lot of these situations and are making up a lot of stuff.
Or they're doing what like Lin-Manuel Miranda did in Hamilton, which is you take a bunch of characters who doesn't make sense to have all these different characters from this person's life doing different things, so you make an amalgam of them and put them into the show.
Exactly.
So that's kind of, adapting as necessary for the stage. Okay, so he's singing with Peggy. He's about to go into the ice, and what they do is they have him standing down center, and she's like stage left. And she's on the radio, and he's like, Saturday at 8, will we go on a date? And they sing in harmony, Saturday at 8, I won't be late. And then it cuts out, and it's very emotional. She's like, Steve.
I think it actually cuts out while they're singing a line together. And
Yeah.
she finishes it herself. And and she's just
That's
on
like how it is
stage
in the
black.
movie, yeah.
It's just very a stark moment. I like it.
Yeah, it was good. So then we have to do a set change and some costume changes. Yeah. So the lights go out, and we get this audio montage of time passing, and there's a clock ticking, and there's all these like different sound cues to help you know that it's the passage.
Gorbachev, tear down this wall.
Except the guy sounds nothing like Ronald Reagan, by the way. It's a really bad Reagan impression.
Terrible.
So they have JFK doing "Ask Not What You Could Do."
Country can do for you. Ask what you.
That was
can
a
do
real
for your
that was a real
country.
recording though.
That
For some
one,
reason,
or it was a good impression. I don't remember, but and then we get dial tone. I think we get like Pong. It's like beep, boop, boop. Then you get a really bad Reagan impression with Mr. Gorbachev, tear down this wall. You get internet connection.
Yeah.
Oh, there's also like disco is sweeping the nation. Okay, so all these like little pop culture bullet points, and then the set has changed, and Steve wakes up in the hospital. And our Starkettes are there, and now they are S.H.I.E.L.D. agents. And on the other bed, we have Nick Fury waiting for him with a sparkly eye patch. And he's very much like, welcome. And if you've ever seen any of these Disney musicals, especially Disney theme park / cruise ship musicals, you'll kind of know which track he's slotting into. It's the genie track. It's the genie. He's the genie. It's a very like kind of zany, fun version of that kind of famous scene from the end of Captain America,
where he recruits him for the new team and everything.
Yeah, or where he wakes up and it's like 70 years later, and Nick's like, "I'm gonna catch you up on everything you missed," and he does a song with the Starkettes called "What You Missed,"
which reminds me of. What did I miss?
What did I miss? What did I miss? No, it's a very different vibe. It's very patter. It's very Gilbert and Sullivan. Like it is very modern Major General.
Yeah.
I can't even compare it to like more modern musical theater rap or even like 70s Sondheim patter because it's just. Yeah. I wanted to be more whelmed, but I was under.
Well, it didn't help that Fury. I don't know if he was meaning to do this or if he was just behind the track slightly, but he was kind of backphrasing it a little bit. And with a precise patter song like that, you cannot do that.
Yeah.
It does not work.
Yeah.
So
some lines you just don't even get in there.
It felt like he was having to catch up with himself all the time.
It was a tricky song for sure.
Yeah.
And this is also the moment where, again, you really feel like they could have been camp if they didn't have to hit these Disney bullet points
Yeah.
in this song. So it becomes very like, let me show you what you missed. Well, okay, wait. First of all, he starts it off with a riff. He's like, yay, yeah. And you're
Where's
like,
my
ooh.
spotlight?
And-
He says.
And
Come
you're
on.
ready for like something like, ooh, this is gonna be fun. This is gonna be fun. And instead it's so it's like
Wacky.
okay, all right. So the first thing they mention is I Love Lucy was a TV show.
Yeah.
And then Steve is taking notes during this, by the way,
Yeah,
and
that's
he's
when he's got his little black book.
He's got some really cringe lines. The girls do a little interpolation of the I Love Lucy theme. They go da 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 da. And then Nick Fury says, "We also landed on the moon." And Steve goes, "I would have led with that."
What was that?
That was a non sequitur, Lucy's opening tune. And also, you should probably know we landed on the moon.
Also, you should really know we landed on the moon.
See, I would have started with that.
Oh, and then Nick Fury says something along the lines of, yeah, it was a good show, but the humor was a little on the nose.
I Love Lucy was a TV show that everybody knows, but personally, its humor was a little on the nose.
Was it?
Well, they.
Well,
they
you
said
wouldn't
it.
want that, would you? You wouldn't want a show with humor that's too on the nose, would you?
Pot, meat, kettle.
And they rattle off some stuff. They talk about the Berlin Wall falling, and then they jump from the Berlin Wall falling to Apple and emojis.
And Thai food.
Yeah, he's like, Thai food is delicious. And Steve's like, a whaties? Or something like that. Like, you know.
Yeah, there was some pretty confusing lyrics in there. The choice to use those lyrics is confusing.
Yeah.
And then, of course, because they have to cross-promote everything, Nick Fury says, and Darth Vader is Luke's dad. And then the girls go, ba, 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 ba. Then big projection of Darth Vader.
And just in case you didn't know, Darth Vader is Luke's dad.
When they talk about Darth Vader,
Spoiler alert.
Captain America says, spoiler alert.
Spoiler alert. Oh,
I'm surprised.
Captain
Doesn't
America
make any
says,
sense.
spoiler alert.
Makes
Why
no
would
sense.
he have that kind of language?
He would
in
not
his
know that term.
lexicon?
Yeah.
Spoiler alert. It's so dumb. By the way, they're in Times Square at this point. They segue to Times Square, and this Times Square has a lot of like projections going on, including an ad for The Lion King on Broadway.
Oh, what a surprise.
And an ad for Disney World. Synergy. So right as the song starts to get funky, the girls are like, what you miss, what you miss, what you miss.
What you miss, what you miss, what you miss.
I was like, okay, here we go. Here we go. Here we go. It's going to get fun. So Cap is like, wait a second. What am I doing here? Why do you need me? And Nick Fury goes, there was a, what is his spiel? There was an idea about putting together, he has this,
Exceptional
It's the
people,
same
right?
speech.
the
that he
famous
does
Nick
in, like,
Fury
yeah.
speech.
There was an idea. Stark knows this.
to bring together a group of remarkable people to accomplish a task.
So then we get our reveal of the Avengers and they come walking down. And this is our like core of dancers, stunt people, and they're definitely not mic'd.
Nope.
So there's Thor, there's Iron Man, but he's in Tony Stark like t-shirt garb.
Yeah, just like in the Hawkeye show, he's wearing the same, like you said.
Yeah.
They're theme park versions of the
Yeah,
outfit.
it's
Black
not like
Widow,
the
there's
Iron Man
Hawkeye.
outfit. So Thor is there, Tony Stark,
Black Widow.
Black Widow, Hawkeye, Hulk, and then Ant-Man.
for some reason.
And Ant-Man it's fun. I think this is kind of funny. Ant-Man is played by one of the girls in the ensemble, but they just like put a cap on her. And I like that. I think that's like funny because that's so musical theater. That is so like we got to put someone in this part. So they come out, they don't say anything. And then Nick Fury gets into this part of the song where it's back to patter and he starts rattling off everything all these superheroes do. And it just keeps going. They go to the screen and he's like, there's a panther in Wakanda and a witch whose name is Wanda.
There's some that aren't even here right now.
And it goes so fast and it speeds up.
It gets to Spider-Man and stuff. Like,
Oh,
there's
he's
so many.
so
There's a panther in Wakanda, a Sokovian named Wanda, a star who is a planet son, an AI ran his own run, a pilot now a glider, a team bit by a spider, a lawyer who can really see a raccoon and a talking tree. Paris is blue and green, Winter Soldier, War Machine, a doctor, one an actual pain who used to work on people's brains.
It's such a funny, unintentionally like indicative of what it can feel like to be a Marvel fan or a Marvel MCU fan,
completely
because just
overwhelmed.
rattling off all this stuff and you're like, oh my god, I can't keep track of all these people. And
There's like 50 movies and TV shows now.
it was bloated in a somewhat bloated
Yeah,
number.
dude, Doctor Strange, they mentioned him too. It's like, yeah, how many can you fit in here?
They fit them
They
all
did 'em
in,
all.
and that's kind of the joke, is that
Yeah.
there's so many, and it's like, well, okay.
You can watch them all on Disney Plus.
Yeah, and then they say like, you need to train them because you're the first Avenger, and then Steve's like, okay.
You're the leader.
Yeah, of which you're the first. That was another great
Of which you
rhyme.
are the first. Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll call them the Avengers, of which you are the first.
And then they give him the circular shield, and he gets his jacket, and then he's like ready to go.
Now he's Captain America.
I will say that I feel like this song, What You Missed, had the most like wasted potential for me. I don't love it. I don't love this number.
It was probably my least favorite.
Yeah, again, not the performer's fault.
No.
I just don't think it was very well written and very well structured.
And
so.
it even sped up near
That's
the end,
fair.
making like the weirdness of the tempo even harder for the actor. Like,
And again, like whatever the workshop process is from this show, we don't know how it got whittled down or what got moved where, and maybe it just didn't ever kind of coming together the way they thought it would.
They basically, there's this sequence in Save the City from Hawkeye on the TV show, the extended 4-minute version, where they kind of introduce all the Avengers. So they cut that out in this stage version and essentially put that information in this song. This is this guy, and Hawkeye's here too. That kind of joke.
While Hawkeye seems cool, like a really nice guy.
And Hawkeye, he's here as well.
And that brings us to the big song, Save the City.
yeah.
This is the banger.
It's so catchy.
This is the banger, yeah.
There's a future, I know it. With the strength you bring us to rise again.
So this is the Shaman and Whitman tune. This is the song from Hawkeye. And it's essentially the same. The only difference is that the cast is way smaller.
Oh yeah.
Way smaller. They still have like the first two soloists. So on the show was Adam Pascal as like New Yorker 1, and Ty Taylor is like New Yorker 2.
Yeah.
And one's a businessman and one's a doctor. So they have that in this version. This one, New Yorker 1, is the guy who plays Bucky and Dr. Erskine.
yeah.
And then the other one is one of the girls in the Starcats.
Yeah, and it's essentially the same number, just with less bodies on basically the same set too.
Yeah,
Oh,
they-
and no wire work. There's no wire.
No wire work.
for-
They cut out a second verse, and again that huge chunk where they introduce the Avengers.
Yeah.
And there's no Chitauri dancers doing that thing.
Oh yeah, it's just Loki.
Yeah, no wire work. So all you people who were complaining that it wasn't Broadway caliber on the TV show, it was better than it was
Yeah.
more
It was
extensive
more
than what they did.
Broadway-y, Yeah.
At Disneyland.
I missed that. Loki showed up? Loki
Yeah.
was there?
Yes,
Yeah.
he comes out with a top hat and a cane.
So he looks like Dr. Facilier.
Yeah, and that was
top
really
hat
funny. And I think it's the guy who plays Nick Fury.
totally forgot
So
about
that was really funny. The choreography was also a little different than what they did on the show.
Well, they couldn't do everything. That they
Yeah.
wanted to. It wouldn't have looked as good with as few people on stage. So I had to do some different stuff, I think.
But fun fact on the show, on Hawkeye, all the soloists singing for the Avengers, they're all Broadway stars. They're all Broadway actors. Most recent Tony Award winner Bonnie Milligan is in the mix. Chris Sieber, my favorite, Chris Sieber. I'm pretty sure he's like shawarma when we're done, and maybe Hulk Smash, Derek Klena. They are not those voices in this show. They are different, dubbed over voices. They aren't the same Broadway voices. However, those stunt people coming forward being those characters are definitely
Yeah, they're all just
Doing
lip
that.
syncing.
The battle's just begun.
We'll conquer the Chitauri.
Then get slow when we're done. Just how are we to fight them? We'll do it as a team.
But that's fine.
That's
But Cap is
typical.
singing, and everyone else is singing, and Cap is singing his theme. I could do this all day, and it's really high. I could do this all day.
He comes up to like an A.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And he sings it a
That's
lot.
crazy.
And he does
He's a
he has
demanding
to
song.
kind of lunge every time because
Yeah.
it's really hard to hit that note. So he's got to plant himself and really like
Totally.
grow in it. I will say I watched online, and the girl who's kind of taking the lead in the song, one of the Starkettes, she didn't do this online, but she did it when we were there. She was whistle toning at the end.
Oh, yeah.
She was whistle toning on the last note.
I do remember
So
that.
that was pretty cool.
couldn't
That
miss it on opening
she
night,
was
yeah.
like, well, I'm going to do it for this matinee audience. I'll just give them a little whistle tone, because why not?
That is the one good thing about a matinee. You try out some different stuff, maybe.
Adventures unite, but we got to hear you say,
I can do this all.
Yeah.
I think that last note had a lot more levels.
Yeah, the three Starkettes were the only ones who got to get away with a little bit of playfulness, you could tell,
Oh, yeah,
and
Greek chorus
maybe
here.
messing around with what they're supposed to do and doing variations within that more so than a lot of the other actors. They were fun.
Yeah, because they're not representing anything outside of themselves. Like, they
Yeah.
are original things for that show. So
And because they're a
Really
Greek
lot more.
chorus, you know, if they're just like bringing in furniture, bringing in set
works.
pieces,
It's
they
fine.
can do
Yeah.
something funny and
or putting Cap's jacket on him. Or
Yeah,
whatever. They
yeah,
can have
yeah.
little fun interactions and stuff.
Yeah.
That, have no other basis.
yeah, this is the song that really comes the closest to being actual camp. Because it is funny to see Hulk being like smash, smash, smash,
Yeah.
and having all these characters do these like funny dance
And
moves.
they're
And Loki-
really dancing. It's like, that's pretty great.
But it's such a catchy song, and it's a lot of fun, and the choreography is really fun, and so you could definitely get into it. It's the one you walk out humming, and I think
Totally.
there is.
It's an earworm.
So they finish with a pose, boom, and then we get a little encore, and it's kind of going through all of the big Captain America
Yeah.
battles. So it's like Sokovia, look
Yeah,
out,
exactly.
and they kind of have a running joke here where they go threat level red, and then it's like Washington D.C. The
Yeah.
Winter Soldier is out, threat level red, and then the group is like save this Cap or whatever. Residents of Wakanda, look out, and then it basically ends with Cap alone on stage because everyone got dusted, and
yeah.
he sings with a nice minor chord.
I could do this all day.
And then we get a moment which I thought was kind of neat. So we get old Steve. He says, on your left, and then it's old Steve on the park bench, played by Skinny Steve.
Yeah, Skinny Steve.
Yeah.
Such a great,
Love that guy.
great choice to do that,
Yeah.
I thought.
So I thought, kind of when I was watching it, that I was like, oh, what a cool moment that could only happen in the theater. Like,
Yeah.
He's singing with his other self. Isn't that interesting? And then I watched it again online, and they actually explain what's happening. We're not at Endgame yet. We are at the end of Infinity War. So when Cap, half of his friends have been dusted. Okay. And so this is old Steve, who's at the end of his, I guess, Endgame journey. It's like his last stop before jumping to the end of Endgame and talking to Falcon on the bench.
Yeah.
So he has the time stone, and he's like, how is this possible? You're old. And he's like, oh, this is just one last stop. We're catching Captain America before the events of Endgame, where he's being visited by Captain America from the end of Endgame, who had traveled back and now has lived his life and is old. So it's him before he goes and gives his shield to Sam at the end of Endgame.
Wow, I did not know that.
I didn't know that either. I had to watch it again, and I was like, oh, okay. They actually tried to kind of explain it. So the premise of this song they sing together is called End of the Line, is basically old Steve saying to Cap, you got to hold on to the end of the line because there's something good waiting at the end of the line. And that it's implied that it's Peggy Carter.
Right.
Can't forget what's waiting. I won't forget what's waiting. Don't forget what's waiting at the end of the line.
So he doesn't exactly tell him what's going to happen in Endgame. We don't know if this happened because, like we suggested, the creators in this world, this alternate universe, are pulling from different events.
Taking liberties.
To
like
me,
you
I
do.
thought it was like, why did you have to? Like, you don't have to explain
Yeah.
it. Like, it could just
But
be
that's
a
cool
cool
that they did
theater
a little
moment.
bit, you know.
I guess, but it's something that went
it does
completely over my head the first time.
Oh, me too. I didn't realize it at all.
Yeah.
But it does fit like all the other stuff from this show. Like it feels at home with everything else that's happened so far.
Yeah.
So
That's good, that's
even
true.
though it is hackneyed and kind of forced, that's this show is kind of.
But again, how are you gonna get to the ending? You got to like fast
But
track
it was
somehow.
kind of like,
Yeah.
for me, I was like, you don't have to explain. It's okay. You don't have to
Oh no,
explain.
I didn't.
I'll
need
allow
that.
it. I'll allow it.
I did kind of like it just because the world knew that there was time travel involved, and they knew things about the Infinity Stones, obviously, to a certain extent, because there had to be some explanation for what was going on, and the Avengers had that explanation. So they were like, well, there's a thing called a time stone, and that's probably how they did all the time travel ones.
But that's a thing in the MCU that's always been so funny is like the normies all treat these guys like celebrities and know everything about their personal lives as if they have seen Marvel movies.
Yeah.
Whatever. So anyway, so it's old Steve and young Steve. Now it's damn Yankees.
No, it's City of Angels.
Yes, it's City of Angels. Yeah. Steve says, "Come sit on the bench with me, Cap." And they sit down and they kind of mirror each other's like leg movement. That was kind of cute.
That was cool.
And so they sing this little duet called "End of the Line." This is very Pasek and Paul,
very Stephen Schwartz.
very the Anderson Lopez's, kind of that driving tune you might hear near the end of the show with like that like kind of acoustic guitar type thing moving it. Yeah, they have a nice little duet, and it's basically like, hold on, you got to get to the end of the line, and everything will work out. You gotta do it, man.
It's like it's a hang in there, brother kind of.
Yeah. Obviously, since they're playing the same character at different stages of their life, they sound really good together.
They mix very
kind of
well.
these poppy tenor boys, kind of
Good
belting up.
One of them had a little bit more resonance. That was Big Steve. And Skinny Steve had that. Yeah, like you said, like kind of.
It definitely had type callbacks to make sure they got the right.
I don't know.
It's gonna show me, so here I am. Now and also then, just one man looking back at where he's been.
And there is a part where I do like where Steve, there's two of them, where Captain America is like, "Can we do this all day?" in the song.
Does he?
Can we do this all
God,
day?
they milked that line. They got every drop out of that
Yeah.
line.
But sometimes I wonder who will save the saviors. Can we really do this all day?
And then old Steve does something with the time stone, and they project on the wall kind of three images, and it's kind of showing the Captain America legacy. So it's like young, skinny soldier Steve, and then typical Captain America, and then Sam Falcon Captain America.
Sam Wilson.
Yeah. And then they're like, just keep holding on. Look what's waiting. Look what's waiting. Look what's waiting. And then it segues to a picture of like Peggy Carter with her like fedora down. So
She's waiting.
she's waiting. She's
Waiting
there
for
at the
you,
end of the
Steve.
line. It's fine. It's a good little duet. Again, it's probably something I'll teach someday.
I liked it.
Yeah.
You're nothing without me.
So old Steve gives young Steve the time stone. I guess this is how this happened. I don't quite get.
Well, because all he has to do is now stay there to meet Falcon, so he can give him the time stone and go back. At least for the logic of the play.
No, because it's the end of Infinity War. It's not the end of Endgame yet. I know.
Well, the same logic applies.
No, because Cap has to stay. He has to stay to do Endgame. He's got to be like lead the big battle. Avengers assemble.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I don't. Somehow he zapped back. He zapped back. And we are taken back to the 40s outside the Stark Club. I forgot to mention that.
Yeah.
They have the Stark Club. And Peggy's there, and she sings about how every Saturday night she goes to the dance hall and, like, waits for
It's
him.
a weird line.
She didn't do that in a movie.
It doesn't make that line.
I
Doesn't
mean,
make sense
maybe
for
that's
her
another
character.
thing they added for the show in
For
this
little
universe.
kids, maybe some shorthand.
No,
She
I think
misses him.
in the
Maybe it's
universe
something
of this musical being written, like that's the thing.
Well,
It's the authors, not the actual authors,
Right,
taking
right.
creative liberty.
But I don't know. I haven't seen
Ooh, how
Peggy.
many layers?
The show Peggy Carter. Maybe that's the thing she does in the show.
Maybe she has. Let us know if she does that
Yeah.
on the show because
I
I've
don't
never
know.
seen it. But yeah, she sings every Saturday at 8. I wait, and
course.
there's a great point where she's down left, and then Steve comes in upright, Cap Steve and finishes her line. And she looks over her shoulder and goes, "You're late."
You're late.
Sorry, I lost track of time.
Then they come together. And again, this is where like the Disney comes in. It is the most chaste reunion you've ever seen in your life. Like she thought he was dead. She thought he was dead. And she's just like, "Ah." And then they come together and they dance. And
No kiss.
And well, yeah, the whole ensemble comes in and they're all, and the music swells. It's this reprise of this Just One Dance song. They're all singing Oz, Oz, love, 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 love. And then at the very end, Steve says, "I could do this all day," and they kiss.
Come on.
Yeah.
I could do this all day.
Yeah, I think the "I come here every Saturday night" line is more of just like a shorthand for she didn't give up hope. Because as far as she knows, he might show up. You know, there's no cell phones or anything.
I know, but don't you think that's rather bleak
It's
for
very
Peggy
bleak.
Carter?
Maybe she's just making it like a tradition.
Not
I'm just
that
gonna go
she-
hang out for a
Not that
little
she
while and
can't
move on with my
mourn,
night.
but like, is she?
Yeah.
They make it seem like she's going there waiting
I
for
know.
him.
Well,
Yeah.
and she is, but like, they also did not give us any context for how long he has been dead to her.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, it could have only been a couple
Like,
weeks. You
yeah,
know?
It's had
could've
to have
been
been
like
a
a week or
couple.
two. Yeah.
I hope it hasn't been like a year
Yeah.
or multiple
Also,
years.
So,
but
but-
it would give you direct access to the timeline. You could literally go whenever you wanted. So why not just go back to like the moment that you were frozen?
But then it's like another useful device for the musical. We had to have an end to this musical. you
Yeah,
know, and
yeah.
that's what it delivered.
Beginning that we found on a second spin around.
So the Starkettes come back out and do a little like reprise, and then the whole ensemble comes out, and that's when I was able to finally clock how many people were in the show. It was like a tight 15 people. Only they do a reprise of "Save the City." I think do both. Oh yeah, and then it's like Nick comes in and he's like, "And you did the thing," and then Bucky and old Steve come in. They're like, "Don't forget."
And now you know exactly what.
Save the city, have fun.
Don't forget who's waiting.
And then they all end in a big streetcar pose with the big blasting, beautiful, shimmery shield behind them.
And then do a bow and
Boom.
then you leave.
Yes.
And that's Rogers the
One
musical.
tight package.
That's it, everyone. I think us explaining it to you might have taken longer than the show actually
Definitely.
is.
Probably.
It's
Definitely.
35 minutes. I would say if you're gonna go see it, if you're of age, bring a beer or two in with you. You can. Hype up these performers,
Yeah,
please.
help
Like,
them out.
they're so good.
They're so
And
good.
theme park audiences can be so bleh. So,
Dismal.
and they're doing good
Drab.
stuff. People are doing flips and people are doing whistle tones and singing in three-part harmony, and Captain America is singing
An A above-
like
yeah.
multiple times in this show.
Not easy Val either.
No,
So-
they're doing really good work. So, it's
Definitely-
35 minutes out of your day at Disney, at Disney's California
if you
Adventure.
happen to be there, definitely don't like make it your plan to go to Disney to see this
That's
show.
the thing, yeah. So like if you had like
kind of a waste.
if you had a big crowd of people that went together, maybe the audience would get that energy.
Yeah. Or maybe if there was like a later on show. I wish there was a
Or if they
nighttime.
did it like
There
they
were
did
no
it somewhere
night-
else. What if they did it at El Capitan or
The
something like
latest
that?
shows were like
It's too short to be anywhere but at a theme park. That's
Yeah.
the thing.
But
And
some
I
people come see
almost
it.
don't even know how you would flesh it out to make it longer without just like bloating it, because so much happens.
if you changed kind of the focus a little bit so that it's like not trying to cover so much, like just take certain elements out and then you could extend those and flesh out the meatier bits of Cap's storyline,
Totally.
and then it might work.
And you know what
Can't be
Disney
horrible.
does? Disney loves to do is they like to take those theme park shows, like say Finding Nemo,
Yep.
and Where's My Dad? I'm all alone, and make them into junior versions of musicals. So
this
Rogers the musical could be licensable. I bet you in a few years I'm gonna have to do a junior version of Rogers.
Oh my god, I can't wait to do that.
But if they did have if it could be 45 to an hour, maybe at least some of the scenes we could sit them a little bit longer, or things could take a little bit of a breath, time to land, and things to be more poignant. But they even make a point in the show to say they have to do it. The line is 30 minutes or less.
Yeah.
But really it's 35, because I was like, there's no way that was 30 minutes or less.
No, it was slightly longer.
But the joke is great, but it's true. And the fact that was the mandate, I don't know how else you could have done it.
No,
really.
I think it worked perfectly for the time slot that it was in. I liked it way better than a lot of the other theme park musicals that we've seen because it was so tight. It was not an hour long of me sitting in that theater being like, yes, I know this story. I get to see these very fine actors doing really cool stuff, but it tends to run a little long for those other ones, and this was the perfect length.
And I will give that to you, because when I saw Aladdin and Frozen at the Hyperion in the past, I always end up just like that during it, and I applaud. I try to applaud because there's often people we know in the show who are doing really amazing work. But I sit there and I go, I've seen this. I've seen this. And so it is kind of cool to have something where, yes, you know the story. You should know the story of Captain America, MCU's Captain America, from the beginning all the way through Endgame. But you are going to hear songs you haven't heard before, and the one song you have heard before is the big banger that everyone's obsessed with.
And it's also just doing fun, wacky stuff with, elements of the MCU that were handled in different ways. So it is kind of a different beast than just watching MCU movies again or something.
Yeah, and Emily made the point, like a lot of these Disney theme park or cruise ship shows are recounting the movie exactly like Toy Story, like Finding Nemo, like Tangled. And there is something limiting there for the audience because we know the story. But to have new, like they really went for it, they got new songs. I kind of wanted them to camp it up a bit more and sort of, I was hoping it would be more of a departure from a beat by beat story of Steve Rogers. But I get that that's kind of where you have to land.
Or like a montage.
You don't really have enough time to make it any more, there be any more confusion maybe for the audience. You have to sort of do it for the lowest.
There was already
which makes sense for little kids. You know, they can absorb this.
It wouldn't be the worst idea in the world to have a Villains Tonight style review with Marvel characters, where it is more of a review. Rogers, if you're there at Disney's California Adventure to the end of August, absolutely check it out, especially if you're a musical theater person, or if you just want to like get some cool air conditioning for a half hour in the middle of the day.
And that's kind of the point I made earlier, like doing Turtle Talk, we had to deal with that as well. Like Turtle Talk and Rogers have a similar situation when it's beating down hot outside. People like to come in and just relax and enjoy the AC and have a drink. And by the way, we also forgot to clap about that song.
Make sure to get that virtual queue line thing before you go to the show, because if you do not, you have to sit and stand in the sun for like a half hour before the show starts, and it sucks.
Half our group were able to do the virtual queue, and half our group were not. So
I didn't get it in time.
So we got in kind of early in the orchestra seats, and then everyone else had to wait outside because this show is in high demand right now. A lot of people are seeing it, and I think that's
there were seats that were empty, but again, you will have to wait in that sun, and it is no fun.
It's a big theater.
Yeah, they need to find a better place for that line to be.
If
they do that, it should be all right.
Yeah. So Rogers the musical, it's unlike anything else I've ever seen at Disney. Check it out. I could do this all day. Yeah. Cody, do you have anything you want to say?
I liked it. It was good. Thumb up.
I could do this all. The battle's just begun.
We'll conquer the Chitauri.
Then get slow when we're done. Just how are we to fight them?
We'll do it as a team. Restore and unleash lightning. Then the caution that
Darth Vader is dead. Spoiler alert. Oh yes, it was quite a twist.